Friday, the Rangers came to Oakland riding high. A little late-inning drama had them winners of 4 straight, and it showed as they pounced early, showing off their power and clutch hitting, and Ron Washington's squad took Game 1. Yesterday, the A's used small ball to get to the long ball as the Green and Gold beat the newly acquired prize starter Matt Garza, taking Game 2 and evening up this series at a game apiece. Today, it'll be A.J. Griffin to the hill. He will look to shut down Texas as this 10-game homestand comes to an end. It's the rubber game of the series. First place versus second place. A's Rangers next. Sunday afternoon baseball from the O.K Coliseum. It is the rubber game of the series between the Texas Rangers and the Oakland A's. It is also Hyundai Sunday here on Comcast Sportsnet California, brought to you by your Bay Area Hyundai dealers. There's your standings. The A's with a 3.5 game lead over the Rangers, and these two teams will play each other 7 more times this season, including today. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Oakland A's baseball. Along with Ray Fossey, I'm Glenn Kuiper. A.J. Griffin gets the start today in the rubber game of the series. Ray's really had a pretty good year, but he's messing around a little bit with fire with the home runs allowed.
Well, especially against the Texas Rangers, because they can hit home runs. The important thing for A.J. Griffin, in his last start, he retired the first 13 batters. Sometimes it's good to get a big lead, which he got, but he got a little bit lazy, if you will, because he started leaving some pitches up after the 13 consecutive. Lynn took him opposite field. He gave up 3 home runs in the game. Only 1 did he have a runner on base. So 2 solos, 1 a 2-run shot. But A.J. Griffin has enough of the good pitches. He knows how to pitch, and especially, you see him shaking his head. They're solo home runs. You're going to give up home runs, but the Rangers have the type of club you don't want to put runners on in front of the home run.
Rangers will send the lefty Derek Holland to the mound. He's a very good young pitcher, and Ray, a little different than most guys. He actually pitches better, at least this year, on the road.
Maybe he likes the cooler weather away from his home ballpark in Arlington, Texas. A good fastball. He works quickly, and that's what both pitchers will do today. You'll see A.J. Griffin doing the same. But Derek Holland has a very good fastball with his numbers on the road. Of course, he's pitching here at the Coliseum. A big game for both, but I think both pitchers really up for today's game.
All right, so the end of a long homestand for the Athletics. They'll get set to hit the road tomorrow, and it is also next time these two teams see each other, it will be September baseball, folks. So, a little early August matchup between the A's and the Texas Rangers. It's the rubber game of the series. We'll have lineups, and we'll have first pitch from the O.K Coliseum in just a moment.
America Sportsnet California is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Go big at a participating Jack in the Box with Jack's really big chicken sandwich combos for only $3.99 plus tax.
Well, it's Sunday, so the youngsters, as always, come out onto the field with the Athletics, get a ball signed by their favorite players. It's a pretty good deal. Game time weather presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Get to the beach. The admission-free boardwalk is now open daily. Beautiful day in the Bay Area. The green layer has blown over at 62 degrees. Lots of sunshine. An hour and a half ago it was very overcast and very cool, but sun is out and beautiful day for baseball. Let's look at the lineup for the Texas Rangers. Leonis Martin will lead off. He's in right field. Andrus at short. Kinsler at second. Beltre, Brzezinski, Cruz in the middle. Murphy at left. Gentry in center. Moreland is at first.
So, Kuip, you're saying the 10th player for the Athletics has arrived, the Sun. And that seems to be something that has helped the A's on this homestand. A.J. Griffin tries to pick up his 11th one of the season. And of course, he'll always remember the game 162 last year that he started and did not fare that well against these Rangers, but the A's did win it to win the division. So A.J. making the start, 4-1 in the month of July, first start in August.
So Griffin's ready. Leonis Martin steps in, and we're set for baseball. Rubber game of the series. Rangers won 8-3 on Friday night. A's won 4-2 yesterday afternoon, and we are underway. First pitch is a strike. So the A's with a 3.5 game lead over these Rangers in the AL West. So the lead is either going to be 4.5 or 2.5 at the end of the day. Here's your umpires. Bill Miller is calling balls and strikes today. Just a bit inside. Close pitch. 1-2 to Martin. 282 with 6 homers, 22 RBIs.
Rangers have had success with Martin in the leadoff spot, and something he did in the first pitch, something he's been doing a lot, that's taking a strike. Fortunately, A.J. threw one in the first pitch. I think it also worked out nicely today with the left-hander Holland on the mound for the Rangers. That means Derek Norris could catch. Ron Washington, of course, DHing Cruz, who got hit Friday, so he's a little banged up. Running yesterday was very sore.
Rolled over on that one. That's right. Cruz is the designated hitter.
Wash one went away from becoming the all-time Rangers leader in managed and wins, and saw him yesterday after the game. He said, "Really? I had no clue." I said, "We'll get it Monday. Don't worry about it on Sunday."
Foul tip. Martin strikes out, and that's out number 1 here in the first. The defense for the A's: Cespedes, Young, and Reddick. In the outfield, Donaldson, Lowry, Callaspo, Fryman. On the infield, and Norris is your catcher. Coco Crisp is the DH this afternoon, allowing Chris Young to head out to center field.
And Callaspo with the lefty starting. DH Coco. Callaspo is at second base. Lowry probably more in a familiar position now where he'll be most of the time. That is at shortstop. With Adam Rosales now in the uniform of the Texas Rangers.
.255 the average for Elvis Andrus. And Griffin pours that one in there, and it's 0-2.
A.J. a couple of starts against the Rangers this year. He beat them here. No decision in Arlington. Remember the guy named Moreland? We showed a Friday night the home runs he hit. One of those was against A.J. He is hitting 9th in the Rangers lineup. That's some power holding up at the end of the lineup for Ron Washington.
And a breaking ball, and Andrus swings and misses, and that's out number 2.
Well, that very slowly thrown curveball at about 68 miles per hour, but the big snap, and A.J. tried to throw it as hard as he could, and that's it at about 68. But fooled Andrus, who started the swing, could not hold up. And a great block also by Derek Norris, keeping the ball in front of him on the strike 3, so he was not able to at least try to advance to first.
Exmo brought to you by Cache Creek Casino Resort. So back-to-back strikeouts to start the game for Griffin. Here's Kinsler.
I always think it's interesting. The third place hitter is supposed to be at least one of your best hitters. Fastball, first pitch to Martin. Fastball, first pitch to Andrus. Slider, first pitch to this guy.
That one's hit toward left. Cespedes going back. He's near the wall, in front of the wall. He makes the catch, and he dropped it. And ending up at second base is going to be Kinsler. He just dropped it.
And it wasn't the sun.
He had a little hop right before he was getting ready to catch it, and it was in his glove, and it just came out.
Well, the little hop, thinking maybe he was closer to the wall than he actually was. And usually that's what happens. And it hit in the webbing, could not hang on to it, and a mistake, as it should have been the third out, really off of the edge, not even in the pocket, but off the edge of his glove. And unfortunately, it's a runner at second instead of the third out.
So it's an error, and here's Beltre with Kinsler at second. Second error in the series for the A's, 65th error on the season. So Beltre hits, and he lines one to left, and that's going to be an RBI single for sure, and he's going to make the big turn and hustle back. So Cespedes got to it quickly, but the Rangers take advantage of a mistake by Cespedes, and they lead 1-0 on Beltre's RBI hit.
That's too bad, because make a pitch and get a tough hitter out and then have to face an even tougher hitter, and he hangs a breaking ball slider into Beltre, and just almost assured that Beltre pumped himself up a little bit more to try to get Kinsler in after the error put him at second base. I think with A.J. Griffin, he's given him so many home runs, and Kinsler capable of hitting home runs. Maybe A.J. thought he'd given up one, and it was probably a sigh of relief to realize the ball was in front of the wall and then dropped.
Here's Brzezinski. 281, 12 homers, 43 RBIs. Flares one into foul territory.
You might say that often today, flare with AJ. He finds a way to make contact, and as we saw Friday night, his contact resulted in about 3 runs batted in.
Brzezinski pinch hit yesterday. He was 0 for 1 after getting the 3 RBIs in game 1. This one's hit very high to right field. Reddick is under it. Side retired. So an error costly for the A's, and the Rangers take advantage. They lead 1-0 after a half an inning. the lineup. Coco's going to DH in the leadoff spot. Then Lowry, Donaldson, Cespedes, Hyman, Callaspo, Young, Reddick, and Norris.
And left-hander Derek Holland, one start against the A's early this season, and has a record of 8-6 as we detailed, pitching well on the road. The start he made against the A's gave up 4 runs, and the Rangers won in 10 innings. But good fastball from the left-hander. He'll hit mid-90s and throw the curveball, slider, and changeup as well. Likes to throw the fastball inside the righties.
First pitch to Coco is outside. 251 with 10 homers, 39 RBIs for Coco Crisp. And now the count 1-1. He'll be followed by Lowry and Donaldson here in the bottom of the first. An unearned run for the Rangers in the top of the first. Pop-up foul territory. Moreland is going to get there. He's got it. And that's out number 1. Defensively for the Texas Rangers, Murphy, Gentry, Martin in the outfield. Beltre, Andrus, Kinsler, Moreland on the infield with Brzezinski doing the catching. So 1 out for Lowry.
You know, one thing about an error that occurs when pitching, good pitchers will say, the player made an error, but really the pitcher likes to do it himself to get out, get the next out, and left the breaking ball up to the very tough Beltre. But I'm sure A.J. Griffin would first to go up to Cespedes and say something like, it's my fault for not getting the 3rd out. Maybe Cespedes can do something against the lefty with the bat.
Lowry hits one right side. That should reach the seats. .292 with 8 homers, 44 RBIs for Jed Lowry. Couple hits in the series.
Well, big one yesterday in the first inning. Very quickly the A's took the lead, thanks in part to Jed Lowry's base hit the opposite field.
Lowry with a 9-game hitting streak. So an early foul ball. Now you can really relax and enjoy the game. You got your foul ball, and it happened in the first.
Look at it for 9 innings.
That's right. In the dirt, swing and a miss. Brzezinski will throw it to first, and that's out number 2. And here's our Ford right choice. Yesterday, it was small ball for the A's. Coco led off the bottom of the first with a bunt single. Then Sogard bunted him over. And he would eventually score with Coco Crisp. And then 7th inning, little bunt, little suicide squeeze, and that was an insurance run for the Athletics. So the A's showed yesterday that if they have to, they can use small ball, and they did it against Matt Garza. And the thing with Garza is fairly well known, obviously, that he does have trouble fielding his position.
Yeah.
And the A's said, hey, we talk a lot, Ray, where see teams that don't do that.
Right.
Why wouldn't you do that against Matt Garza?
Well, and plus the A's have not really hit a lot of home runs lately, and I thought what Bob Melvin did even the first inning with the back-to-back bunts and a base hit and then a 2-run home run by Cespedes. And you know, bottom line, he walked Callaspo to start the 7th inning. So if he's upset on a safety squeeze, then that's too bad from his standpoint, because it was just executing great baseball. Big insurance run for the A's. And if you're not hitting the long ball, the A's definitely, with the power of the Rangers, and they're capable 1 through 9 of hitting home runs, and with a 1-run lead, you're at least a possibility of one swing of the bat. It's a tie game. So the insurance run helped. Sogard did a great job, and he's got another sign.
Breaking ball is low.
The unfortunate thing in the era of social media, I mean, everything that went on following the game was a little bit harsh, but Sogard handled it very well. He did his job, and the A's ended up winning the game.
Rolled foul off the tarp, and the count remains 2-2. Holland looking for a 3-up, 3-down first inning. That one's lined towards center. Gentry is over. He's got it side retired. It is a 3-up, 3-down inning. On to the second, 1-0 Rangers. Coffee pouches. Get the product the players use and visit getgrinds.com today. 1-0 Rangers lead. A.J. Griffin will face Cruz, Murphy, and Gentry. And he drops that big curveball in for a strike to Nelson Cruz. Cruz hitting .269 with 26 home runs and 75 RBIs. And he drills one to left. Cespedes turns around, and that one is gone. Cruz has homered, and it's 2-0 Rangers. Number 27 for Nelson Cruz.
Well, he barely made it to first base yesterday in his final bout. That's when Ron Washington decided to DH him today. And no wonder he wants to keep his bat in the lineup. But there's another hanging breaking ball similar to the one that was hit by Beltre for the single. And hard to make a mistake to a power hitter, especially with a breaking ball left up. And granted, it is a solo, but it's a run.
Here's Murphy. So home run number 27 allowed by Griffin. He's done that in 141 innings. So that's the most home runs allowed in the major leagues. 3 more than Blanton, Dickey. Changeup that misses outside. So 3-1.
It's amazing when a pitcher makes a mistake and he elevates a pitch. It usually is hit hard at this level.
No forgiveness, huh?
No. Not here. That's home runs are usually hit on mistake pitches. If it's a good pitch, hitters usually are not going to hit them. You make a mistake, they will make you pay, and that's what he did. He paid for slider. Also hit a Have an 88-mile-an-hour fastball on Friday night, straightaway center field for a 2-run shot in his first at bat.
So here's Gentry with Murphy at first, Donaldson in on the grass at third, outfield straight away.
Well, the look on AJ's face, you can see it there, and of course, in our open showed him giving up the home runs to Toronto, shaking his head, but you don't want to get to the point where he wants to try to throw the ball 100 miles an hour, which he's not capable. Just try to hit the location, get the ball down.
Bunted and bunted straight back and out of play.
You can't do that.
What's that?
Bunt. That's not something the Rangers are supposed to do after their pitcher got angry yesterday. Yeah, he plays for a team that bunts more than anybody. So I would think what the A's did yesterday is rather acceptable.
Swinging away this time, but he takes a strike, and it's 0-2.
Actually, I give Ron Washington a lot of credit playing in a park where home runs and runs in general, you have a lot of them. Yet Ron Washington believes in playing small ball, getting runners in scoring position, and usually by the bunt.
So 1-2 to Gentry with Mitch Moreland in the on-deck circle. Fryman into foul territory, cannot quite get it.
It's amazing what about 6-7 inches does to a player to try to get started. 8-6-8, and once he gets going, he can run fast, but a little bit harder when you have the frame he has. Improving tremendously at first base.
Line to Donaldson, quick throw to first, and he threw it away. And Murphy's going to get up. Fryman's going to have to hustle. Murphy is going to stop at second base. So it's a line out and then an error on Donaldson, allowing Murphy to get to second.
Donaldson looked like he was trying to turn a double play. He got the ball quickly, saw Murphy take a couple of steps, and thought he could unload quickly. And with the ball going to the right from it, he had to jump over Murphy. And I guess the good news, Murphy hit in the dirt to get back. He could not get to third base. A lot of times with a foul, a ball thrown down into the foul territory here at the Coliseum. Donaldson, flat-footed throw. He has a strong arm. And probably would not have gotten him anyway with Murphy getting back. Line drive in front of him.
So here's Moreland. Big curve, outside corner strike.
Maybe the A's are trying to duplicate what the Blue Jays did on Wednesday, when the Blue Jays made 4 errors and won. The A's 2 innings, 2 errors. Not the type of club you want to make too many mistakes against, because they will capitalize, hurt you, as they've already done it.
So 0-2 to Moreland, hitting .244 with 15 home runs and 41 RBIs. Moreland 1 start in the series, 1 for 3. Jan bounces it to Fryman, who will take it himself, and that's out number 2 with Murphy going to third. So good pitch there by Griffin, able to get in on the hands a little bit of Mitch Moreland.
Well, as we have seen, Mitch Moreland likes to extend his arms, very powerful, and so to make a fastball, make that type of pitch inside, it's a great one.
Top of the order now, Leonis Martin, who struck out swinging in the first.
First pitch is critical. He took a first pitch fastball the first at bat. He's been doing it in the series. He might not hear.
So they throw him a changeup that runs outside. The 7th straight game that Martin has hit in this leadoff spot. So, as Ray said, he's done a pretty good job there. So wouldn't be surprised if he stays there. It allows Kinsler to hit in the 3rd spot.
Oh, we've seen in this series that, of course, Ron Washington knows that the two guys, Martin and Andrus, can set the table for the middle part of the lineup, and they have done a very good job of that.
Toward Chris Young, who's got to hustle back, and he makes the catch. Side retired. So a hard hit ball, but Murphy is stranded at 3rd. Cruz with a home run, and it's 2-0 Texas.
Cespedes bobblehead Friday, August the 17th. It is Saturday, August the 17th. 15,000 fans will get a Yoenis Cespedes bobblehead presented by State Farm when the A's host the Cleveland Indians. For more information and tickets, call 877-493-BALL or visit oaklandathletics.com/tickets.
First pitch to Cespedes is fouled up above us to our right. Cespedes, Fryman, and Callaspo here in the bottom of the 2nd. 229 the average for Cespedes with 17 home runs, 52 runs batted in. Big home run yesterday in the very first inning. So a big series, and the Rangers win the first game. I thought the Cespedes home run in the first inning yesterday was big.
Yeah.
Maybe a 3-0 lead early.
Yeah, the bunt for base hit, sacrifice base hit, and then the 2-run home run.
So Cespedes strikes out. Here is that home run.
And it was on a slider from slider curveball off speed, but it jumped off the bat of Cespedes over the left center field wall. And today he sees fastballs from the left hand.
It really was not a bad pitch. It was down.
Yeah, but it was off speed.
That one.
And it sped up his bat, and maybe what happened yesterday with that breaking pitch, and now the lefty is sitting fastballs.
Fryman rips them right up the middle for the A's first hit. A 1-out single.
Why wait around? You get a first pitch fastball, pull the hands in, got the good part of the bat on the ball. Watch the hands come in. That's the important thing, because if he had extended the arms, he would have broken his back. But great job of bringing the hands in. And remember, Fryman pretty much plays only against left-handed pitchers. It's almost like a pinch hitter coming off the bench, swing the bat early, and he did. Gets fastball first pitch.
Here's Callaspo. First pitch is a fastball, first strike. Aspo with the A's is 0 for 6. Here's the full numbers with the A's and the Angels. And he shoots one. Moreland has it, did not get it in the air, got it on the ground, so he throws to second. Had to come close to catching it in the air, but must have short hopped it. They do get the lead out at second base.
Well, where Fryman was, if he catches the ball in the air, it's a double play. Fryman kind of caught in between, thinking the ball might have been caught. But unfortunately, it was not hit crisply, and Moreland got off the bag a long way, considering he was holding Fryman. Standing next to Fryman, he looks dwarfed next to the 6'8" Fryman. But nice play by Moreland. Of course, with the glove on his right hand, being a left-handed thrower, helped him reach out and take a possible hit away from Callaspo.
Yeah, that's where being a left-handed thrower really helps a first baseman. Glove on the right hand. First pitch to Young is low. Chris Young in center field today, 192 with 9 homers, 30 RBIs. Fastball in on the hands of Young, and he fouls it straight back.
And yesterday, Jared Parker stayed inside, especially Ian Kinsler. And Kinsler finally got a fastball and yanked it down the left field line for a solo home run. You stay in a pattern. Good hitters will pick up the pattern, and so far, and in previous starts, Holland has used the fastball effectively inside of right-handers.
Talking about the Holland fastball. Opponent's batting average. So it's interesting. Hitting better against the fastball this year. Fewer fastball strikes thrown. Tough to explain that one.
Well,
that's a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think in what Profar, the youngster for the Rangers, experienced yesterday with Grant Balfour in the 9th inning when he was leaning out over the plate. That's what hitters do in occasion. This being a right-handed hitter, left-handed pitcher, so they try to negate that by pitching inside. And when you do it, you make a mistake, you can get burned.
So Young works the walk. The first and second, 2 outs for Reddick.
Batting in the 8th position.
But what's interesting about those numbers we just showed, Ray, I mean, this year Holland has a very good ERA, 3.18. Last year his ERA was 4.5.
Yeah.
So it could be that his non-fastball pitches, better pitches this year. Better slider, better change maybe. Big bouncer, but it's foul. And last year he was 12-7 with a 4.67 ERA.
Yeah, usually most pitchers, most hitters, they all like fastballs. You like to throw a fastball, like to hit a fastball, but when you can throw as a pitcher your other pitches, complementary pitches, and if they're thrown well, you can get a lot of outs, especially if you are a fastball pitcher.
Check swing by Reddick, and now it's 0-2.
As we've seen many times, that if a pitcher can throw breaking pitches and fastball counts, they're going to have success. If they're throwing quality pitches.
Callaspo at second, Young at first. Gentry, the center fielder, is shifted very well toward left center field.
Josh Reddick, it's just amazing how the defense sets up against Reddick, and pitching fastballs outside, expecting him to try to get out and pull the ball. I think he just glides the bat through and goes to left field. It'd be perfect.
That one's hit hard. Kinsler dives. He's got it. Throws in time. What a play by Ian Kinsler. Takes a hit and a run away from Reddick and the A's. 2-0 Rangers after 2. best records in interdivision games. How about the Rangers? They're 29-14 against the AL West. The A's are 30-20 against the AL West. So both these teams have done their thing within the division. And the Rangers 7-5 against the Athletics this year. They're 7-2 against Houston, 7-2 against the Angels, 7-5 against the A's, and 8-5 against Seattle. Missed outside, and it's 2-0 to Andrus. He'll be followed by Kinsler and Beltre here, top of the third. Rangers have scored a single run in each of the first 2 innings. Andrus shoots one toward shallow right center. Reddick tracks it down. Nice running catch. Little low backhand, and he made the play.
Yeah, Josh Reddick robbed by Ian Kinsler with a dive to his right, and of course Josh, one of the best right fielders, and robs Andrus of a base hit, and maybe trying to stretch it into 2, but excellent job by Reddick charging with a backhand. And the way Josh Reddick got past first base after Kinsler robbed him and threw his helmet. Nice to see him just forget about that, get quickly to the outfield defensive mode, and makes a nice play.
First pitch strike to Kinsler, who hit that fly ball that Cespedes dropped near the wall in the first inning for an error. And he rips one toward right center. Young on the move, still on the move, and he's going to get there and track it down. And that was a nice play. He was shaded over a little bit toward left center, so he had a long gallop, and he got there.
It's amazing. When the ball hangs up, you have speedy outfielders and good outfielders. They can track them down, playing Kinsler to pull. And you're right. Got a great jump on the ball, and with the ball slicing away from the center fielder. Chris Young had it perfectly, and with Reddick backing up Young as Young backed him up on the previous ball.
Curve to Beltre for a strike. Beltre with a 2-out RBI single in the first inning. Takes another curve, and it's a strike. 0-2.
Wouldn't try it again. He is a good 2-strike hitter, and especially off speed. But A.J. Griffin throwing 2 excellent curveballs.
Fastball inside to Beltre. Beltre now 4 for 9 in this series. He goes down to one knee to foul off that curveball.
Just say a hitter with a slow curve at 2 strikes is much different than before that. And remember, on Friday night he started the 2-run inning when he hit a changeup similar location to right field off Tommy Malone before Cruz hit the home run.
So fastball is outside. Let's see if Griffin at some point comes back with that big curve. He's thrown it 3 times to Beltre in this at bat. That one was a fastball in, and it was golfed foul into the second level. Beltre always a tough out. Seems like he's never in a slump, at least when the A's and the Rangers play.
You know, he takes such a violent swing. You're always concerned if he gets into one, it can travel, which it's done a few times this year.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who, you're right, swings hard, but yet doesn't really strike out a lot and has decent discipline at the plate.
And this should be a pitcher's pitch and not give in pitch.
And it was a fastball, and it was fouled back.
cutter that he's throwing has turned into be a bigger break, almost like a slider, but the cutter, a very good pitch for him, although not thrown as much as his fastball and curve.
And that one is drilled down the left field line, and it is just foul. A loud, long strike.
He just reacted on the fastball that was up and in. Fortunately, it was in, and all he could do is pull it. But he's so strong. He's gone from 0-2, and this is the 10th pitch coming up.
And a big curve, strike three called on the inside corner. Beltre turned away from it. It's called the strike, and it's a 3-up, 3-down inning for A.J. Griffin.
Infinity and co-sponsored by the Contra Costa Times. Every Friday home game, you can get 4 Plaza Level tickets, 4 Coliseum hot dogs, 4 medium Pepsis, and 4 bags of peanuts. And it's just $50. Tickets are limited, so act fast. For more information and tickets, go to oaklandathletics.com/Friday.
Two to 1 or 2-0. The Rangers lead the Athletics. It's the bottom of the 3rd inning. Norris to lead it up. Norris, Crisp, and Lowry. And the first pitch in for a strike. Norris hitting .217, 7 homers, 24 RBIs. Fastball close, bit of it inside. He stranded a couple in the 2nd inning. Rolled foul right off the facing of the still photographer well down there. Crisp to follow, and then Lowry here in the bottom of the 3rd. And now 2-2.
That's a pitch if a right-handed hitter can pick up the spin of the slider from a lefty. He's trying to get him to swing at a bad pitch, trying to, as Cespedes did actually, with the pitch down in the dirt. Actually, Cespedes is a fastball, but he's thrown the sliders at the hitter that swung. You lay off the pitch. That's a good one to lay off. How about a 3-2 curveball that Griffin got the call from Bill Miller? Right on the corner. Adrian Beltre stood at the home plate about a minute, did not leave his tracks, talking to Bill Miller the whole time.
he had a beef.
Yeah.
Check swing, rolled foul. Two and two to Norris, trying to get aboard, get something going here in the third. And now full count. So Norris battling him.
Brett Anderson throws a very hard slider to the back foot as a lefty, and you get a lot of swing and misses with the pitch. Norris has been patient so far.
Strike three called on the inside corner.
Now, yesterday, Stephen Vogt kind of following what had happened to John Jaso with a big swing by Jerickson Profar, follow through it right, not necessarily right on top of the head, but to the side enough to knock him down. And then a little bit later with Beltre grabbed him after Vogt took one off the mask. And after the ball that Profar swung and missed and hit Vogt on the top of the head. Actually, Stevens said that Profar had hit him twice before earlier in the game, and he had actually backed up before the at-bat occurred in which he got hit in the top of the head.
And he did have the concussion test, and
yes,
it came out okay, so that's good news.
And wearing the helmet, which is very important. The catchers wear the helmet, which all of them do today. John Jaso is feeling better.
One and one to Coco Crisp, who fouled out his first at bat, and he swings at a changeup, and he missed it 1-2.
Important thing for a catcher is to determine how far he can stand or sit behind a hitter. Does he have the big follow through? Does he kind of reach back, and there's a possibility of catcher's interference? You can see where Brzezinski is set up. That's kind of normal distance. There's the slider down and in that Norris took, but Coco couldn't.
So strikeout number 4 for Derek Holland.
Well, the hard slider to the back foot, and if you recognize the spin and you see it's down, it's a ball. Coco swung over it, no contact. That's the slider, fastball slider. That's why when he was a reliever, it worked well for him. Now he's added the change and the curveball a little bit as a starter.
So here's Lowry with 2 outs. Lowry hits it in the hole. Andrus has a jump throw to first, and they got him. Sensational play by Elvis Andrus at shortstop. Wow. So that is how the bottom of the third ends, and it's worth another look. with New Age insider Paul Gutierrez. Follow Paul on Twitter at @Gutierrez CSN. He's going to bring you instant replays, inside the clubhouse reactions, and more. Get the most comprehensive A's coverage you can find with our insider Paul Gutierrez only on CSNCalifornia.com, your home for authentic Bay Area sports. There's Paul working hard. That youngster's working hard as well.
I was going to say, was that Paul eating a hot dog working hard?
No, it wasn't. But Paul probably wouldn't mind one right about now.
So when you leave after this half inning, I'll know where you're going, right?
Negotiating going on. Nothing like adult to child negotiating.
Nothing like coming to the ball game and having all kinds of food to eat and watching a baseball game on top of it.
Good pitch there as got up and in a little bit on Brzezinski, and he strikes out for out number 1.
Well, a little bit of the movement, not a lot. Looked like initially a cutter as it cut there a little bit. The center field shot looked like it was straight, but not the velocity that AJ Griffin, that is, throws with his normal fastball. So a little cut action on the inside.
First pitch to Cruz is a fastball for a strike. Cruz doesn't agree with Bill Miller. He thought it was inside.
He doesn't want the pitches inside called strikes because he wants to extend his arms.
Misses that one. So 2-1 the count. American League home run leaders. Cruz 4th now in the league. His 27th in the second inning. Curve. He pulled off that one. Swings and misses. 2-2.
Well, have the slower curveball variety, not the hanging slider that he hit in his first at bat.
All right, so the count is 3-2. Would he throw the big breaking ball?
Fastball in.
And a good pitch inside corner, strike 3 called. So back-to-back strikeouts for Griffin. And Cruz arguing with Bill Miller.
Well, he hits the target of Derek Norris. So if Norris is on the corner, which he should be, just a question, and as we have seen, as far as Dale Scott yesterday probably had the exaggerated slot where he might not have seen the inside corner as well, but Bill Miller is right there. And you can argue all you want, but once the umpire makes the call, it's done. It's not going to reverse a call. And maybe the Beltre incident earlier affected the at bat by Cruz.
0-2 to Murphy. Murphy walked in the second inning. He walked right after the Cruz home run. That one's drilled toward left center field. Cespedes hustling back, and he's going to get there, and he makes the catch. Side retired. So 9 in a row retired by A.J. Griffin. Bottom of the 4th coming up. 2-0 Rangers. in 2002. 4 athletic pitchers combined in a one-hit shutout of the Detroit Tigers. Who were the 4 pitchers? Derek Holland's first pitch to Donaldson drops low. Holland through 3 innings has given up 1 hit. He has walked 1. He has struck out 4. And inside corner called a strike. Donaldson hit a ball hard to center field in the first inning. That one rolled to Mike Gallego, who gobbles it up.
Well, Josh Donaldson has hit this gentleman well, and that was last year when you got him on 24th of September. A guy named Colin Cowgill got him earlier. Cowgill now with the Angels.
Fastball in on Donaldson. He fouls it back.
It's a tougher fastball. It would have hit him if he hadn't swung it. Fouled him.
Cespedes to follow, and then Fryman here in the bottom of the 4th inning. To right field, and Leonis Martin on the run makes the catch for out number 1. So Holland, like he stayed in on Donaldson.
There's a difference of Martin playing right field and Cruz. Cruz probably does not get to it because his legs maybe not as sharp. This is what Cespedes did on June the 5th. He knew it was gone. On the 24th last year in Arlington, ball was hit hard by Cespedes as well. That's hit of the game, on by Donaldson and Cespedes.
Good swing there by Cespedes. Fouls it straight back to the screen.
Cespedes shot 24th as an 0-2 fastball and tried to get it inside, missed the location. Doing a little bit better job today with the fastball into Cespedes.
.94 miles an hour. So Holland has pretty good velocity. Holland is still only 26 years old. You feel like he's been around a long time. His 4th full year in the big leagues. He's pitched a lot with the Rangers in these 4 years, postseason.
That's what you're hearing. If you happen to be hearing some drums or I guess they're drums, or what are they beating on?
Cowbell? Some cowbell up there. Never have enough of that.
Especially from Wisconsin, huh?
2-2 pitch. Again, a fastball in, foul back, 95 miles an hour.
Well, he tried to pull the hands in. Nate Fryman did it perfectly in his first at bat. But hitters do not like to get jammed. His only hope, make a mistake with a pitch inside, keep the score close, and somebody take advantage of it.
Cespedes indeed holds up, says C.B. Bucknor.
See, Bill Miller, and I'm sure as much as Adrian Beltre didn't like the curveball call, he appreciates Bill Miller deferring to the first base umpire. Because as Beltre has often said, and I think we agree, it's hard for the home plate umpire to make a call and check swing. Beltre will point to first before this day is over on a check swing.
Just missed outside. Very close pitch. Cespedes has a 1-out walk.
It's amazing sometimes you can watch a pitcher and just by changing his delivery, he slows his delivery down a little bit, kind of guides the fastball. Actually, his changeup at 84 because it wasn't the true fastball to follow through. Through the changeup off the plate. See the angle of Bill Miller looking at it. Did not give it to him.
So Fryman steps in. He had a base hit to center field in the second inning. First pitch, a strike to Big Nate. Cespedes, the runner at first, has just 6 steals this year, and he's been thrown out 6 times. So not quite the threat on the bases that he was last year. It's 16. He was 16 for 20 last year in steal opportunities.
I think there's sometimes that maybe because he's had some problems with his legs, he did last year, going from first to third on a ball, injured his hamstring. Or sometimes maybe they don't want him to run as much.
Yep.
And that might be the case this year because the numbers are down.
As fast as he is, his bat is still more important than his legs.
You're right. And he is starting to slide more the conventional way, feet first on his backside instead of the head first, which he hurt his hand doing that also and put him on the DL.
Brzezinski cannot block it, and Cespedes will go to second.
As a catcher, you call a breaking pitch, you anticipate the break of the slider. There's a case of a slider, and Brzezinski just did not get in front of it. It's the slider to the back foot.
So the count 1-2 now. Cespedes at second. Callaspo in the on deck circle. And Fryman chased it, foul tip, and that is strikeout number 5 for Holland.
The same pitch he threw in the dirt came right back with it. That's another good pitch.
That's a good slider. Huh? Like breaking sharply down and in.
And takes something off the pitch, and then it has the good downward tilt to it.
So Callaspo steps in. He reached on a fielder's choice in the second. He had a line drive toward Moreland that ended up being a fielder's choice. That one cued towards second. Kinsler scoops it up. Side retired. So the A's get a runner to second. That's Cespedes, but he is stranded there. So we're headed to the 5th. Still 2-0 Rangers. Brought to you by Eric's Deli Cafe, celebrating 40 years of bringing it to the plate. Stop by Eric's and enter to win 40 years of free sandwiches with character. So we reached the 5th inning from the O.co Coliseum. Gentry, Moreland, and Leonis Martin for the Rangers. He's wrapping up this 10-game homestand. They will head on the road tomorrow. 2 in Cincinnati, 4 in Toronto. So that's the upcoming road trip for the Athletics. The Rangers are starting a 10-game road trip. They will go to L.A. tonight, play 3 against the Angels, and then they will go to Houston and play 4 against the Astros. Callaspo has it, and that's out number 1. So Gentry is retired.
I think the Angels might be hopeful of having 3 walk-offs against the Rangers, like the Rangers did against them.
Payback.
Wow.
But I looked at Texas' schedule, Ray. It's interesting. Starting tomorrow, they will not play a team with a winning record until they play the A's again on September 2nd.
That's not good.
So they, I mean, listen, we've talked a lot about, is it who you're playing? It's more how they're playing. But that is their August schedule. In fact, I'll name the teams they're playing after today. Angels, Astros, Brewers, Mariners, Astros, White Sox, Mariners, Twins. So that's who they play until they see the A's on the 2nd of September. Fryman to Griffin, and Moreland is retired.
You see, of all those teams you mentioned, I can't really think of one. And granted, they don't have a winning record, so it doesn't even come in the realm of possibility of going to postseason. But you know, you start thinking about they're playing and might play harder and with less pressure.
Maybe.
Just because they're playing for themselves, playing for the future, and the manager's trying to build for the future. But the White Sox are really struggling this year, which is surprising with the talent they have. 40 and 68 starting play today.
Well, they lost again, right? Detroit beat them 3-2, so the White Sox have lost 10 in a row. This one is fouled just a bit to our right. So the A's go to Cincinnati. I think we all know the Reds are a very good team. They're right in that playoff race, but they have not been playing great baseball lately. They've actually been struggling some, and they got blown out today by the Cardinals, 15-2 in Cincinnati. So a good Reds team, but not playing great right now, so maybe you catch them at the right time.
And the A's will be seeing their new park
for
the first time. The Great American Park is what it's called.
That's right.
All these new names, you know, it's not Crosley Field or Riverfront Stadium anymore.
Inside corner, Martin strikes out, and A.J. Griffin is rolling right now. He has retired 12 in a row. Rangers still lead 2-0. 4 Athletics pitchers combined on a one-hit shutout of the Detroit Tigers. Those 4 pitchers were Corey Lytle, Carter Rincon, Chad Bradford, Billy Koch.
Corey Lytle pitched well for the A's in 02.
He sure did.
Unfortunately, passed away in a plane crash.
One and one to Chris Young, who walked in the second inning. Reddick to follow, and then Norris here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Foul back, 1-2.
Second time through the order, a lot of fastballs inside. At what point does a hitter start to guess? Start to look for it, open up, and instead of trying to bring the hands in. Until you get 2 strikes, you can cheat. You can look for it. If you get it, maybe do some serious damage. Get a couple of strikes, everything changes.
Well, he does. He is pounding that inside corner to right-handed hitters. Did it again. So the A's are maybe getting to the point where there's been some inside corner pitches called strikes really for both teams. Maybe you see that from the dugout and you got to be aggressive.
Yeah.
Right back to Holland, who scoops it up. He'll underhand to first. Young is retired.
MLB.TV celebrates 11 years. Catch all of the second half action in HD quality. Watch every out-of-market game live on more than 350 mobile and connected devices. Visit MLB.TV today. MLB.TV, baseball everywhere. And this is the time to have any way of watching baseball, because the August, September, the stress drives, the good days of baseball, especially if your team's in a pennant race.
Pennant races starting to heat up. You even start, at least I do, maybe I'm on my own here. Start looking at that wild card a little bit. And I know it's a couple months away from the end of the season, but I think, you know, at least you know the teams that are part of the equation.
Except for the new format effective last year, a wild card means there are 2 wild cards, which means you play one game to beat the actual wild card winner. That's the difference, but it's still fun to watch. It allows more teams to at least think they have a chance to get to postseason.
Yeah, more credence is given to winning your division, and it almost makes winning the wild card, if you want to say winning the wild card, but it's tough. It is very tough. So Reddick strikes out, and that is strikeout number 6, and nobody knows more about that than these Rangers.
Fastball, fastball, fastball to Reddick after he fell behind 2-0. Went to the fastball, and Josh with a leg kick couldn't catch up to the good fastball.
So here's Norris. Now the Rangers last year, of course, we all know what happened at the end of the year. And it's almost like they did make the playoffs. They did. They were, in fact, they were the #1 wild card team in the American League last year. They had a home wild card game and they lost to the Baltimore Orioles. So they left here after the disappointment, and they went home, and boy, they had to be shell shocked a little bit, and the Orioles won that wild card play in game 5-1.
Yeah, I often wonder if Mikey Falvey sent the champagne over to the A side.
Who knows?
Because the A's celebrated twice in the 3-game series.
Swing and a miss, and it's 0-2.
If that was then, this is now, and the Rangers now trying to catch the Athletics after the A's did a remarkable job in the second half catching the Rangers. Almost to the point the Rangers just, every time they'd look back, they'd see the A's on the heels.
0-2 pitch is grounded toward Beltre. It's a nice hop, guns it across, and that is a 3-up, 3-down inning for Derek Holland. So we're moving to the 6th. Rangers 2, A's nothing. Comcast Sportsnet California is brought to you by Cache Creek Casino Resort. Cache Creek's endless summers. Waves of cash every day. Visit cachecreek.com for details. Beautiful day. Mount Diablo. We get to look at that thing every day, Ray, up close.
6 months might be snow on it. That's always
there was a handful of times, maybe more, where there was snow up there this past off season. Have you ever been up there?
Yes, I have.
Know you've
many times.
Lived at the base of that for a long time. It's quite a drive up there.
Yes, it is. Remember taking our daughters and go up and flying kites up on some of the flat grounds.
Yeah. It's windy up there.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it?
Rock City?
Yeah, Rock City. You can see every Bay Area bridge, I believe. Yeah, something like that.
The old song about on a clear day, you can see forever. Well, that's what happens at the top of Mount Diablo. Took our grandson Matthew up there, I think a year or two ago, and there's a point where they have a place you can stand, which is the peak, and they built a kind of a building around it.
Yes, exactly.
Tourists.
You can go in there and
it's interesting place, but it's high, and boy, on a clear day, you can see a long way.
Well, how about people that ride their bike up there?
Oh, no. How about coming down?
Coming down, you could go 100 miles an hour if you wanted to. It's worth it if you're ever out in that area.
And especially with this kind of weather, whether there's no cloud coverage.
You go up there in the winter time, though. By the time you get up there, if it's a cool day down low, it'll be 25 degrees up there.
Absolutely.
Three and two to Elvis Andrus, and he hits one toward Donaldson. Backhand throw, and a nice play by Donaldson. Little short hop on the backhand. And that's one out here in the top of the 6th there.
Josh Donaldson is excellent, especially when he makes a play like this. Watch him gather himself after he makes the play. Takes a little crow hop, and Nate Fryman getting much, much better at the stretch and extending with the glove. And that always helps, especially with a 6'8" frame, to reach out and make the play. But Josh Donaldson, very strong arm, but instead of rushing it, as he did when he tried to double up Murphy at first, this time taking his time using a strong arm.
First pitch to Kinsler is a strike. So Andrus now 0 for 3 today.
He wanted a double. That's what defense does. Kinsler robbed Josh Reddick. Could have been a run driven in and maybe more. But got in the top hand, pulled the ball, and Donaldson just looked the ball into his glove. And there's the part that you have to really appreciate. Knowing he has a strong arm, knowing the ball was hit hard. And even though Andrus has speed, was able to throw him out easy.
Stays 0-2 to Kinsler. Kinsler reached on an air and hit a fly ball to center field. He scored in the first. Griffin has retired 13 in a row.
Talk about fastballs inside. You watch Stephen Vogt move inside, and Kinsler opened up. And down the line, would not hook foul, and that made it a 3-2 game. But they stayed inside, finally opened up, got one, and hit it out with the big liftoff, which he's capable of doing.
He's got 10 this year, does Kinsler. And he's been on the disabled list this year. Chris Young in center field is right there, and that's out number 2. So 14 in a row retired by Griffin. And here's Beltre. Beltre still chatting with Bill Miller.
Now batting, number 29, Adrian.
Yeah, you think about it from a hitter standpoint. If you could talk enough and you get the umpire thinking, you know, umpire is going to make the calls anyway based on what they see across the plate or not cross the plate. But maybe there are times you say, well, it's close.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe I'll think about it a little bit more. It's not a make-up call. Bill Miller very confident that he called him out on a good strike or a pitch on the inner part of the plate he thought was a strike.
And we've seen Beltre enough now. Was he really super mad? Probably not.
No.
Probably.
It's a question.
Yeah. He was yelling at the umpire. Nothing like that.
And yes, he will be swinging 3-0. He won't look. Gary Pettis won't give him a take sign, and we have seen him swing 3-0, and we expect him to do it every time he gets this count.
And he was right on cue, Mr. Fosse, and unfortunately it's a base hit.
And fortunately it's a base hit.
Yeah,
Instead of
true.
He got on top of it, and it was a fastball down the middle, and you know, you just know he's going to be doing it. And look at this location.
Number 12,
And again, a little bit of top spin to keep it in the park as a base hit, but you've seen him go deep on a 3-0 fastball when you think he's not going to be swinging, and you could almost guarantee when a hitter doesn't look at the third base coach, he's telling you something. And certain hitters are going to tell you something anyway. Ron Washington's going to let his power hitters swing the bat.
Brzezinski goes after the first pitch very high to center. Young fighting it, still fighting it, and he makes the catch. Chris Young hung in there, made the catch, side retired. Still 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the 6th.
Robin Ventura in the ribs with a pitch in the third inning. wrong move. 26-year-old Ventura charged the 46-year-old Ryan, and Nolan gets him in the headlock, delivers a few blows. They're called noogies. Pitch is clear. Ryan would retire at the end of the 1993 season. And Robin Ventura says, as I'm running to the mound, I'm going, what are you doing? What am I doing? What, and Nolan, being the cowboy, just grabbed him like he would a steer and just started pounding him.
And I bet Robin Ventura never dreamed that people would be talking about it 20 years later.
But, I give Nolan Ryan, Chuck Morgan, head of Diamond Vision, a lot of credit. When the White Sox go in to play the Rangers with Robin Ventura as the manager, they do not show them.
And, and that's a class.
That's class. They made sure that they were not going to show it.
I think that's a very good move.
Yeah.
You see teams do certain things when other teams are in their ballpark, and I don't think it's a good idea.
I agree.
I really don't.
Yeah, I agree. And in the case, that's notable because here we are, like you said, 20 years later, still talking about it. A mistake that Robin Ventura made, a very calm, but he kind of took one for everybody in the American League.
Yeah.
And he took it for sure. If you think about it, you look at it, he doesn't really go out and start. He just kind of said, grab me, Nolan.
That's right.
Grab me around the neck and start beating on me.
Yeah. Well, that's a good move, though, by the Rangers.
Yeah.
There's no reason to show the guy up.
Again, Holland changed his delivery a little bit on the changeup. Now, what am I doing?
That was it. You're right. There was that one.
There's the nougat, and they're trying to pull him off.
He slowed up just about halfway there. You're right. That's when he said what you said. This is a bad move. 3-2 to Coco. And a 3-2 changeup. And Coco hit it right off the end of the bat.
From up here, you could see him change his delivery. 60 feet, 6 inches away doesn't mean that the hitters can't. And he throws mid-90s fastball and his changeup at 82, 84, so you have to think fastball.
Beltre, nice play, gets up and he throws out Coco crisp.
And there's your defense. So
he is good.
Kinsler in the third. Kinsler actually second. It's an hour that Elvis Andrus got in the third, and now Beltre. So excellent defense by the Rangers today. And Beltre, the Gold Glover, going down. Once he gets in his glove, he has a very strong arm. Down to the knees, popped up, watch him hesitate, get the grip, and strong throw.
So here's Lowry, who takes a strike. Lowry's 0 for 2. The A's only have one hit, and that was Fryman's single with one out in the second inning. 2 walks, 6 strikeouts for Holland. 81 pitches. Garza, complete game yesterday, so Ron Washington should have all of his arms ready and available down in his bullpen.
114 pitches for Garza yesterday, the 8-inning complete game loss.
Fastball is high.
So we talked Friday night. The Rangers came into the series hoping for the ultimate, the sweep. And they thought after winning Friday night, even though Ogondo was all over the place, used 5 relievers to finish that game. Garza complete game. Their big acquisition.
So off speed pitch, strikeout number 7. Well, that's why I think that Cespedes' home run was so big in the first inning.
The slider took a little bit off the pitch, but to the back foot. Another right-handed hitter biting the dust. That home run yesterday helped the A's make it a 3-0 lead in the first inning, and perhaps the unearned run in the first inning that Holland got. Got him off on the right foot, and took the mound with a gift run.
Donaldson 2 for 9 in the series. And a fastball a little up at 95 miles an hour. We've seen Holland at times, Ray, really had a little bit of trouble finding the strike zone. That has not been the case today.
Yeah.
He's had pretty good control.
And I think to be pitching the 6th inning and still throwing the fastball inside to the right-handers and not really changing anything, as long as the hitters will tell you to make an adjustment. And same for Przinsky, the catcher. He keeps calling as long as the hitters keep getting jammed, fouling the ball back in case of a slider down and in.
Darvish.
Ogando and Garza.
Donaldson hits with high to left field. Murphy's going back, and he's got it. So Donaldson just got underneath, and that's a 3 up, 3 down inning. That's 8 in a row retired by Derek Holland. Is brought to you by Hyundai. Hyundai Sunday is brought to you by your Bay Area Hyundai dealers. Here come the Hall of Famers. Eck, Raleigh, Ricky. Eck showing good strides today.
Yeah,
nice
I think
pace going.
So Ricky won Friday. Raleigh won yesterday. And is that going to get him? No.
So Eck, a winless weekend. We should let him know that.
Yeah. Maybe Eck is just disappointed the way he looks. Because Eck is a style master. and for him to look at that, he's going, I can't win. They'll showcase me even more.
Eck's big head. The big head. Cruz, Murphy, and Gentry, 7th inning, and it's 2-0 Rangers.
To send that photo of the Eck back to Boston.
Yeah,
see what he thinks.
A quick 0-2 to Nelson Cruz. Homer and a strikeout for Cruz. Down and away. Well, it sounds like Major League Baseball suspensions are coming tomorrow. Big question mark surrounding Nelson Cruz. Will he be on that list? Strike 3 called on the outside corner. So that is strikeout number 7 for Griffin.
So let's see. You don't like the fastball in, and you're going to complain about it. How about a fastball outside corner? Derek Norris moved down, a little slight tailing action, and Bill Miller said, yep, like it. And I bet it's just a little bit off. Well, right on the corner. Nice positioning by Bill Miller. He had moved over a little bit behind Derek Norris. So fastball in, fastball away. Got him twice.
Well, and that's probably what Cruz is not happy with.
That's right.
He's given the pitcher both sides of the plate. It's a general argument by the hitter.
He should have been a little bit nicer the previous time. You know, it seems like, for all indications, the players are already aware of who they are and whose name's going to be mentioned. And by 6 p.m. tonight, I don't know, East Coast, West Coast, wherever, that they're supposed to make a decision whether they're going to appeal or accept the suspension.
Little flare, left field, foul. So basically, see if we can make sure we're correct here. If you appeal, you could keep on playing, but then you're going to have to go through the appeal process, which would probably be in the off season.
You would think.
Now the risk you're taking there is if it goes against you, you could be suspended for more than 50 games. Yeah. So that's the risk you would be taking if you said, I'm going to appeal because I want to keep playing.
Right. And if you're a free agent, you sign a free agent contract, you have to, and the suspension is upheld, you have to serve those games the next season. Which the team that you signed with is going to have to accept that. 50 games, third of the season, essentially.
A little pop-up, straight up, and Norris quickly out for behind home plate. He's got it. That was not a very high pop-up, so Norris maybe even had to react a little quicker than normal.
It's a tough play because he had to find it and watch him get rid of the mass. That's the important thing. Get it out of the way as the ball starts to go back into foul territory. And Bill Miller, home-plate umpire, as the ball does get back into foul territory. That's important. The ball dropped. Was it in foul? And that's what the catcher's looking up to without sunglasses. A.J. Griffin is working as quickly as really I've ever seen him, and he and Derek Norris seem to be on the same page with every pitch that's thrown or called.
Big Nate on the move, and he had it, he dropped it. An over-the-shoulder catch.
Well, that one wasn't hit that high either. It's not as if he had a long run to get in position himself. He had to try to make the play on the run, had it in his glove, and I guess in hindsight, if he could put the ball in the glove, keep running, as it hit in the heel of the glove, I think it was sliding to stop himself, but it did not get up in the webbing of the big first baseman's mitt. Watch where it hits. The heel, that's hard. That's hard right there. That's a great shot in Exmo, showing it hitting the heel of the glove.
Now, I would say that Fryman dropped that ball, looked like a football player, and he would have been right around the corner of the end zone, but that's sort of a bad subject right now, because
when we come back,
I don't want to make my good friend Clay Wood mad, although
see, today,
I don't know that.
Today's the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 9th, is it?
It's Friday night. The Raiders have an exhibition game. That's what we're trying to, we're beating around the bush. That's it.
And the A's are back Tuesday.
Yeah.
So Clay's got plenty of time to get the field ready.
Lowry scoops and they throw, not in time. Gentry's very fast, even out of the right-handed hitter's batter's box. Boy, he is quick.
Well, really, the only chance was for Donaldson to cut in front of Lowry, and that was not going to happen because the ball was going directly at Lowry, and Donaldson went over, let it go, and you're right. Flying down the line. A hitter with speed, and Gentry has it. He smells the hit. He's going to run. Check swing. That is fast. And that quickly, the left-hander Jerry Blevins gets loose. Starts to get loose anyway.
Here's Moreland. Gentry, he will go as well.
You know, if Moreland was swinging the bat like he did the first part of the season, I think it would be situation where they say let Moreland swing the bat, but maybe not now, and maybe Wash is trying to get another run with a base hit versus hoping that Moreland gets into one, which he's still capable, but see him hitting ninth, that's just very unusual.
Good lead for Gentry. Swinging and a miss. Moreland has grounded out twice, both times to first base. So he's 1 for 5 in the series. Outfield straightaway, and that one's driven to right, and that's trouble. And that is gone. 4-0 Rangers. And boy, the Rangers players jump out of the dugout. They are a pumped up group. So an infield hit with 2 outs and then a 2-run homer.
Well, they're probably excited because they've been waiting for him to do that. And that was not AJ's best pitch. Right down the middle. The boy said 87. And that is a hitter's delight. And that was crushed.
So Moreland with a big hit. Bob Melvin's coming out. So Moreland, his 4th home run against the A's this year. Well, 2 more home runs allowed by Griffin in this game. Now 28 home runs allowed, and he's going to leave after 6 2/3 innings, trailing 4-0. When it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune Up, your oil change tune-up and smog experts.
Comcast Sportsnet California is brought to you by Xfinity, home of the most live sports, and by Toyota. Do the math and save at your local Toyota dealer.
So 4-0 Rangers lead the A's. Griffin knocked out after 6 2/3. Well, he was rolling along. He had retired. Let's see, 17 out of 18. But then that Fryman could not handle that pop-up, and then Gentry, a couple pitches later, infield hit, Moreland home run. So that's the frustrating part for A.J. Griffin.
The fact that he pitched so well, sure, he gave up the home run, but the unearned run in the first. And you know, that's one of the things we've seen, that when the A's offense has not done anything, it puts that extra pressure on a pitcher to try to continue to put up zeros. And you know, every pitch is critical. And with the Rangers, that's why yesterday's game was so big for the A's, because once he got to 3-0, then 3-2, every Ranger is possible making a tie game. Sure. So the extra run really paid dividends for the A's to get the insurance run.
So this is the leadoff man, Leonis Martin, who has struck out twice and lined to center. So he's 0 for 3. 3 for 11 in the series is Martin. A soft line drive into the glove of Kayasco, side retired. Mitch Moreland, again, home run number 4 against the A's this year. A 2-run shot, 4-0 Texas. Uverse, and it's coming up this evening at 6 p.m. on Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area. We'll have all the highlights from this A's Rangers game. We'll head to Napa for the latest on the Raiders and Tiger dominating at Firestone. Henry Wolford's going to take charge behind the anchor desk. Rubber game of the series between the A's and the Rangers here at the Coliseum, and it's 4-0 Texas. So A's have 3 more shots at Derek Holland and then the bullpen. And Holland's been very good. He's given up just 1 hit, and he has struck out 7. And a first pitch is fouled back by Cespedes.
The reason the A's might see the bullpen today is because more of the Holland at 88 entering this 7th inning. Number of pitches, but a little bit better cushion now because he doesn't have to worry about a runner get on base and a long ball tie the game. Now he has a 4-0 lead.
Looking at the other divisions in that AL East, the Red Sox won today 4-0 over the Arizona Diamondbacks. DeBrant over McCarthy. Brandon McCarthy came off the disabled list to make that start. He took the loss. So Boston wins. Tampa Bay beat the Giants 4-3. A home run for Will Myers. He's been playing great since he was called up. So looks like Will Myers is as good as advertised. So Boston wins. The Rays win. So the Red Sox maintain their 2-game, or make that their 1-game lead over the Rays in the East. That one foul just to our right. The Orioles lost. Mariners beat the Orioles 3-2. So the Orioles struggling some. They have lost 8 out of 12. AJ Griffin, he was not a happy camper, folks, in the dugout.
Cespedes a big swing and let the bat go. Let's hope it's just the blister on his hand that has bothered him throughout the season.
So we always get a little concerned when we see that.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks said they weren't going to make a move because McCarthy and Cahill were coming off the DL.
Well, the way the Dodgers are going, it may not matter. Dodgers won again. 14 consecutive road wins for Los Angeles. So they're opening up things in the National League West.
Did I read recently there's as much as 9 games behind the division?
I think they were, yeah. They were quite a ways back.
And now they're 5.5 after the Diamondbacks lost and they won.
So that Orioles loss, Orioles lose a game, so they're now 6.5 back in the AL East. Baltimore has lost 8 out of 12. 3-2 pitch to Cespedes is popped foul again.
Okay, but let's not forget that the Orioles have acquired a few players to try to help them in the stretch run. Feldman and Norris, a couple of pitchers, and this Frankie Rodriguez. Didn't he go to
Feldman, Norris, and K-Rod, yeah. So another 3-2 to Cespedes. Inside corner, strike 3 called. Bill Miller's been consistent. He has been calling the inside corner strike pretty much all day for both teams.
Krasinski, inside corner. There's the target. There's the pitch. There's the call.
Now batting, first baseman.
That's on the plate. He backs off. Remember, he's close to the plate. So when he backs up, he's trying to lift his hands a little bit.
So 8 strikeouts for Holland, and here's Fryman.
Well, thankfully, Fryman has a base hit. That is 2.
Yes, he does. He shoots on the right center.
I remember Nate struck out on an off-speed slider. His second at bat after singling in the first pitch. In the first at bat, just like he singles the first pitch in this at bat. See the fastball, let it go, and Holland is staying with the fastballs as he is doing inside part of the plate. That one he didn't get it where he wanted it.
So the A's get a base runner. That breaks a stretch of 9 consecutive A's hitters retired, and here's Callaspo. Callaspo is 0 for 2. Callaspo popped it up. Andrus backing up. Seems to have the sun situation under control, and he's got it.
Enjoy the nostalgic days of A's baseball during every Capcom Throwback Thursday game this season. 5,000 fans get a commemorative button highlighting A's eras of the past and a scorecard upon entry. Additionally, class level tickets are available at the throwback prices of 50% off. Collect all 8 buttons on Capcom Throwback Thursdays. For more information and tickets, go to oaklandathletics.com/Thursday.
Chris Young steps in, 2 outs, runner at first. Chris Young has walked and bounced back to the pitcher, and the first pitch, a broken bat, and that's going to drop in the center for a hit. So a couple of hits for the A's here in the bottom of the 7th inning, so they got a little action with 2 outs, and Reddick's coming up. And crowd's starting to make some noise.
Cap, coincidentally, 3 pitches, 3 batters, 2 hits, all fastballs. Fastball was jammed on his. Chris Young jammed this fastball inside. Here the crack of the bat. And usually the crack of the bat means a solid hit, but there's the case of a crack of the bat is a broken bat hit, but they'll take it.
There's Frazier starting to warm up. Funny, the Rangers used 5 relievers Friday night, 0 relievers yesterday.
Now batting.
Over in the A's bullpen, it's Cook and Nisha. So Reddick hits 2 on, 2 out. Big point in the ball game, and if the A's want to make a dent, going to do it here.
1 hit through 6 innings, now 2 in the 7th with 2 outs, and lefty on lefty. Reddick robbed by Kinsler, first at bat.
Fastball. Well, Holland, I mean, he's fine when he gets to 100 pitches. He's not one of those guys who starts to slow things down. In fact, he's thrown as many as 125 this year. Thrown 119 a couple times. One and one. And that one was like running down and in on Reddick. There's a few Nolan Ryan jerseys around. A lot more if you're sitting at the ballpark in Arlington.
And the one who is sitting down there by the name of Ryan doesn't need a shirt. Everybody knows he's sitting down by the dugout.
There they are. The old light blue from the 70s.
Yeah. You can put the 34 on the Astros, the Angels, or the Rangers, and they're all retired in those cities.
Brzezinski blocks it. There's the average pitches per start for Holland, 103. Fastball off the plate outside. Full count, runners be moving. Fryman at second, Young at first.
Well, you'd like to think he'd throw him a fastball, and you'd like to think that Josh Reddick will be looking for it and drive it, and maybe do something he's not done a lot this year and put one in the seats. Otherwise, just keep the inning going with a line drive someplace.
Long look in by Holland and timeout called, so pitcher catcher are going to get together.
And I think when this discussion is happening, a result of Holland staring into Brzezinski, Brzezinski likes to call the slider. He likes to call breaking pitches in these counts. And even though they have a 4-run lead, I think he's willing to at least take the chance of getting Reddick to swing at a bad pitch and not giving in to him with a fastball. But just the fact that they were talking might have put a little question in the mind of Reddick.
Here's the pitch, and he got it with a fastball. Reddick slams his bat and helmet down, and the A's strand a pair. 8th inning coming up, 4-0 Texas.
Game from MLB.com, available on iPhone and iPad. Download free today. Guess who's coming in to pitch?
Your guy.
Just listen to the music. And a gentleman stopped me yesterday, coming to the park, and he said, "Can't believe you didn't know what Shazam was."
That's not fair, Ray.
I
I'll stick up for you, buddy.
I told him, Gomer Pyle, you know, Shazam. He knew what it was.
That's the charm about you, Ray, right there, that you didn't know what Shazam meant. Nothing wrong with that. So when it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change tune-up and smog experts. Neshek comes in. So Blevins pitched to Martin, got him out. Now Neshek here in the top of the 8th inning, 4-0 Texas. Close pitch to Andrus. The count 1-2. Andrus is 0 for 3. Strikeout, fly out, ground out. Good pitch. Call the ball. Maybe low. I don't know. That one spins way outside. So now full count. Kinsler to follow, and then Beltre. 1 in the first, 1 in the second, 2 in the 7th for Texas. Donaldson straightens up, and Elvis Andrus is 0 for 4.
Now, when the great Hall of Famer Brooks Robinson played third base, every time you hit it down to him, say that's not smart. It's a human vacuum cleaner. Well, Andrus messed around with Donaldson last time. He robbed him of a double, and he hit it to him again this time. So, not smart hitting by Ellis Andrus. I mean, that's just, you know, you just still do that.
So 1 out for Kinsler.
These guys are going to hurt themselves beating their hands, and concrete doesn't move either.
Kinsler pops it up. Norris grabs it, and that's out number 2.
Now that's talent. You hold the mask in your hand and you run over, and he never got rid of his mask. That's unbelievable. This is something that the one he caught by the plate, he threw his mask. Watch this. He does not get rid of his mask. Throw it. No, I'll leave it there in one hand. That's great. You ever do?
So an inning ago he threw his mask, exactly. And that was great. This time he held on to it, and that was great.
Well, it's a great play because
he's trying to follow you.
The balance, you know, it was great that he threw it to get rid of it, but the balance to be able to make the play with the mask in one hand and reach back and catch it. No, he needs to get rid of the mask. Be a little facetious.
He's trying to follow.
Be a little facetious. I mean, that's the mask is to protect your head. You're getting dizzy too, huh?
Following along. 1-1 to Beltre.
Showing a lot of talent.
Beltre with a couple of singles, 2 for 3 with an RBI. At Beltre's career numbers, Ray, 369 home runs. He now has 2,366 hits. He's 33 years old, and he's going to play for a while. He just seems to be one of those guys who loves to play. And I've asked you this question before. I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be a Hall of Fame candidate.
Yeah, I do too. And you know, if he had had any sort of seasons with the Mariners, remember he signed a 5-year contract after the Dodgers and got in a huge park and didn't hit as many home runs. The smart thing he did was play 1 year for the Red Sox. He had a big year and then signed a 5-year deal with the Rangers.
Yeah, in Seattle, I mean, his numbers weren't bad. They just weren't the big numbers, the 100, 110 RBIs. He was more 80, 85, but big ballpark, didn't really get used to it, and not a lot of great teams. Cespedes tracks it down, so Brzezinski is 0 for 4, so Neshek gives up a 2-out walk, nothing else. Bottom of the 8th coming up. Summary brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. With 2 outs and nobody aboard in the very first inning, Cespedes dropped the fly ball. Kinsler ended up at second, and then Beltre makes the A's pay with a 2-out RBI hit. That made it 1-0. Cruz made it 2-0 with a solo home run in the second inning, his 27th of the year. And Derek Holland has been very, very good. 7 shutout innings. He's allowed just 3 hits. He's got 9 strikeouts, and he is back out there for the bottom of the 8th inning. So the A's trying to figure out Holland. It'll be Norris, Crispin, Lowry with action in the Rangers bullpen. Tanner Scheppers is just now starting to throw. So Norris steps in. He has struck out and grounded out. So 4-5-0 for the Rangers, 0-3-2 for the Athletics. A.J. Griffin knocked out in the 7th inning, gave up 4 runs, 3 earned, and a couple of home runs. There's Scheppers, big tall right-hander. Joe Nathan, the closer for the Rangers, has not pitched in this series. Foul territory. Moreland hustling over, and he cannot quite get it. It takes 1 bounce and goes up over the dugout and into the seats. So 1-2 the count. Sometimes you got to be nimble. No problem.
I think I'd take the chance of running the cooler instead of those spikes hitting hard on the
That's true.
concrete.
.109 pitches for Holland. And he got him with a high fastball, 95 miles an hour, and that is strikeout number 10 for Holland. Hey, join us on Tuesday. The A's will head to Cincinnati to open up a 2-game series against the Reds. Dan Straley and Matt Latos is your pitching matchup. Our coverage begins at 3:30 with A's pregame live. Complete A's coverage every night at Sportsnet Central and CSNCalifornia.com. The home of A's baseball is Comcast Sportsnet. So, A's playoff team last year, Reds a playoff team last year, and both teams confident they're going to be in there again this year. And that's going to be a base hit for Coco Crisp. So 1-out single for Crisp, and that'll bring up Lowry.
Trying to go inside fastball again, although this one leaked out a little bit. Coco a little close to the plate. Maybe trying to get Brzezinski to call something outside. Stayed inside again, but it's a nice inside out offering by Coco.
So hit number 4 for the A's, and here's Lowry. Lowry has struck out twice, and that one is scooped. Andrus, Kinsler, Moreland, double play. A very nice play again by Elvis Andrus, and just like that, the inning is over. Sanders. It looked like Gray, he could have caught this in the air, and he reached back a little bit and let it hit the ground.
A smart play, because he knew that the runner from first was frozen, and once he got the runner at second, then it's going to be an easy turn by Kinsler to get the double play. Backhanded flip to his double play partner. They've been around for a while, they've been around a long time.
8 very good innings from the left-hander Derek Holland. Joe Nathan starts to throw out in the bullpen, so Holland certainly looks like his afternoon is going to be complete. Evan Scribner comes in. When it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts. Scribner comes in here in the top of the 9th inning to face Cruz, Murphy, and Gentry. So Scribner back up from AAA. There's Nathan. Tommy Malone was sent to AAA. It's a little different situation than just, hey, he got sent down. They always have some off days. Chris Young fighting the sun. Cruz not really running it out on the should have been, although he does have the bad leg, which is why he's DHing. So we'll cut him a little slack there.
The point we're taking about Tommy Malone, I think with the off days, and let's hope that whenever the A's do need the next starter, which will be a week from Tuesday after returning from this next road trip, they do have Monday and Thursday off and the option of skipping, and they decided that Tommy Malone, I guess, will pitch on Thursday in Sacramento. But he would have to stay 10 days once the player's option, unless there's an injury that occurs. So
well, starting yesterday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, 10 would be Monday, so he could come back on that Tuesday. Nice play by Callaspo on the backhand, threw on the run, and he got Murphy. So that's out number 2, and here's Gentry.
A nice play, because remember Callaspo with the Angels played probably at third base. He had played second, but mostly third, and not as much time at second base with the Angels. So a nice play going to his right. I think it's always difficult when a player is acquired right around the trading deadline and knows that he's acquired to try to help bolster the team, try to get him in the postseason. But Callaspo, a veteran, knows how to play. I'm sure it's not going to affect it.
Gentry 1 for 3 and that infield hit, and that was a big infield hit. The next guy, Moreland, hit a home run. That was in the 7th inning. High pop-up foul. That's right. The A's with Monday off and Thursday off.
Joe Nathan comes in this game in a non-save situation. It's, as you said, he had not pitched in the series, and just a matter of getting some work in. Let's hope, as a lot of times closers don't like that, and he gives up 5.
Good idea. Very good idea.
Might as well go on some wishful thinking. Not just 4 and be satisfied with a tie, just score 5 and win it.
Gentry drops a single in the left field with 2 outs, so he's 2 for 4. Now the Rangers will have Thursday off. You got those 3 in Anaheim, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off, and then 4 in Houston, including a game on Monday, next Monday. These two teams will play 6 more times after today. 3 here in Oakland on September 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and 3 in Arlington September 13th, 14th, and 15th. Rangers finish the season at home. Final week they have Houston and the Angels. The A's will be on the road. So it's just something to keep in mind as these two teams battle the final 2 months of the season. 1-0 to Moreland. His home run in the 7th was his 16th of the year.
I think he's got an insurance run in the 7th yesterday. Moreland's 2-run home run. Yeah, the Rangers 2 runs, and that was not surprised to see the excitement. I think that the players were just as excited for Moreland hitting the home run as it was the fact that it made it a 4-0 game, because they knew he had been struggling. He had a home run off A.J. Griffin earlier in the season, so maybe today that's been the cure. But A.J. 2 more home runs today. When you're trying to pitch, you don't have any offensive support. It's got to be tough.
Donaldson racing over, and he makes the catch. No, he does not. He overran it just a little bit, and then he had to reach back, and he could not keep it in the glove.
Well, and Josh knows that the ball's going to come back with a left-hander hitting it, and he ran hard trying to get under. Maybe they're losing the ball momentarily, but he had to put up his glove and just too quick. Got to it too quickly.
So Moreland will get another shot. 2-1 the count. Lowry playing behind second base. Donaldson, as you could tell on that foul ball, he shifted over. He had a long ways to run, and now it's 3-1. So Nathan just kind of standing out on the mound now. Rangers bullpen, so he is ready to go. Foul back and a full count. So Gentry, with his great speed, he will take off for the full count, 2 outs. Fryman behind Gentry, and it's a swing and a miss. Moreland strikes out, side retired. So bottom of the 9th coming up. It's the Rangers 4, the A's nothing. Nathan coming in.
Eric Holland got a gift run in the first inning before he took the mound, and then started working fastball after fastball inside. So the slider also on the inside part of the plate. There's one there, good one to Coco Crisp, but fastball to Josh Reddick, striking him out with a couple of runners on base. That was a 3-2 fastball, and he threw it to Reddick, and then got through the 8th inning with a nice double play turn by shortstop. So Eric Holland, 8 shutout innings, sitting next to Adam Rosado. Rosie's making sure he's in every camera shot. He's sitting beside exactly who he knows. He sat beside Holland yesterday on the network game, and Holland was interviewed, and there's Rosie putting his head in, you know, a lot of attention.
It's crazy, Adam Rosales. Here's Joe Nathan, the veteran closer. He'll face Donaldson, Cespedes, Fryman, Callaspo, Young, Reddick, Norris, Crisp, and Lowry. A good swing, fouled just to our right off the facing of the visiting radio booth. When it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change in Tune. Your oil change tune. And Smog excellence. The veteran Nathan. Now 38 years old. He's been around for 13 seasons. Second year with the Rangers, right?
Yeah, closed out this year's All-Star game as Mariano Rivera pitched the 8th. Jim Leyland making sure he got into the game. So Nolan with, Nathan with closing ability.
Now 3-1. Nathan last year had 37 saves. Now this is not a save situation. An important game nonetheless for the Rangers. And that one's high, and it's a leadoff walk here in the bottom of the ninth. Final line for Holland, 112 pitches, 8 shutout innings, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts. That's the 3rd time this year that he has struck out 10 or more. But now he's just got to sit and wait. Cespedes steps in for his 4th at bat. And Nathan misses, and it's 1-0. Very short lead. Donaldson, he's not going anywhere at first. And this one's popped up. Moreland coming over. And it is right into the first row behind the Rangers dugout. Career versus the Athletics for Joe Nathan. Look at that ERA, 1.11.
It seems like Joe, when he pitches against the A's, we've seen a number of times where it's been a 1-run lead, then the Rangers add a run, and he makes it close, as he did in Arlington earlier in the season. The A's came up with 1, but could not get at least the second one to tie it.
Coming right at him there, and it's 1-2. Fryman on deck. Although he is not on deck. Moss has come out. So Brandon Moss is going to pinch hit for Fryman. That one bounced right to Andrus, who dives. He's got it. He flips it, and he flips it past Kinsler. Everybody's safe. Andrus just tried to do way too much. He made a nice play, but he tried to flip it with his glove.
And unless that's the only chance he had, he should at least take the ball out and got the one out. And it looked like he had time to do it.
He did have time.
Once he hit the ground, if he'd just taken his right hand, Nathan almost hit it with his bare hand, but Elvis Andrus really enough time to just roll right there, get the ball out with his hand, and flip it to Kinsler to get the lead runner, knowing they have a 4-run lead at that time. Kinsler just no chance to make the adjustment to reach out and grab it.
So here's Moss pinch hitting for Fryman. First pitch is rolled foul. Well, now the A's just one base runner away from the tying run to the plate. Kinsler playing his normal spot. Andrus, the shortstop, is playing right behind second base. Swing and a miss on a slider.
And Nathan has a couple of different sliders. One that goes down, looks like a split finger fastball. This one kind of comes around the plate a little bit. Backdoor slider, catching the outside, and enough of an off-speed pitch. Moss couldn't make contact.
Now Moss is going to have to battle back. He's behind in the count 0-2. Very close, 1-2.
That's a good eye. That's a close one to take, but a little bit too far down.
So the crowd, over 23,000 this afternoon. They have not had a whole lot to cheer about offensively, but they're trying here in the bottom of the ninth. Moss bounces one toward Moreland. He'll get the out at second. The throw to first where Nathan is covering. It's just a touch late. So Cespedes is retired at second base. There'll be runners at the corners.
And they have to try to get confirmation from C.B. Buckner as far as whether he touched the base or what, but he got there, and Brandon Moss just barely beat the throw, the return throw. And that's how quickly it was, and his foot was all over the bag, so anything other than whether he got him or not, but definitely on that replay showed that Moss beat him.
So here's Alberto Callaspo, swings around to hit from the left side. Callaspo is 0 for 3. First pitch runs outside. Chris Young is the on-deck hitter. Outfield shifted well toward left center. Murphy very shallow and left. Ball's cued toward Andrus. He'll get the out at second. The throw to first, and that's a double play, and that's how the ball game ends. So 6-4-3 double play, and the A's are shut out in the final game of the series, and the Rangers come to the Coliseum and they take 2 out of 3. So the A's lead is now 2.5 in the AL West. Final score behind Derek Holland and Joe Nathan. Texas Rangers 4 and the Oakland Athletics nothing. You've been watching Oakland A's baseball on Comcast Sportsnet California. Don't go away. A's Postgame Live with Dan Devone and Shooty Babbitt starts right now.